Assalamu alaikum. Our lecture today is about mechanism of labor. What are the objectives behind this lecture? We should know the answer of the following question. First, what is the definition of mechanism of labor? What are the movements that the fetus undergo to complete the process of delivery? What is the role of each movement to complete the delivery of the head? First, we start with the definition. Mechanism of labor means it is a series of changes in position and attitude that the fetus undergo through its passage through birth canal. It is described for the vertex presentation and gynecoid pelvis. What is the meaning of position? It is the relationship of the specific part of the presenting part, which is the head, and this specific part is called a denominator related to the pelvic inlet. This denominator in the vertex presentation is the occiput. Attitude means the relationship of different parts of the fetal body to each other. Now we start with the cardinal movements essential to complete the delivery. First is engagement. Engagement is defined as the passage of the largest transverse diameter of the fetal head, which is called biparietal diameter, through pelvic inlet. This engagement usually occurs at 13th week of pregnancy in majority of primigravida and at the time of labor in multigravida. The head is said to engage if 2/5 of the head is palpable on abdominal examination. And we know how much of the head is palpable abdominally by doing first-degree pelvic grip of obstetrical examination. The head enters the pelvis in occipito-transverse position. That means the occiput, which is the denominator, is directed either to the lateral right or to the lateral left. So the anterior parietal bones slide over symphysis pubis, which is the anterior border of the pelvic inlet, followed by posterior parietal bone, so that the sagittal suture remain synclitic. What is meant by synclitic? It is midway between symphysis pubis and sacral promontory. And we know the sagittal suture extends from the anterior fontanelle anteriorly to the posterior fontanelle posteriorly. It is the union of the two biparietal bones. If the sagittal suture lie close to the sacral promontory posteriorly, so the anterior parietal bone will be the presenting part to the examining fingers in vagina, and this is called anterior asynclitism. If the sagittal suture lie close to the symphysis pubis, so the posterior parietal bone will be the presenting part by vaginal exam, and this is called posterior asynclitism. Second movement essential to complete the process of delivery is the descent. In primigravida, as engagement occur at 13-6 week in majority of them, so further descent will not occur until second stage of labor. I mean when there is full dilatation of the cervix. But in multipara, the descent occur with engagement at the onset of labor. Descent is brought by one or more of the following forces. 1. Pressure of amniotic fluid on the fetus. 2. Pressure of the fundus during uterine contraction upon the breech which is occupy upper segment. Contraction of abdominal muscles. Third movement is the flexion. As the head descends down in the pelvis, it will meet the resistance from the cervix, from the pelvic wall and pelvic floor. So the head will undergo a flexion, and the chin of the head become in contact with fetal thorax, and the longer diameter, which is occipito-frontal diameter of the skull, change to the shorter one called suboccipito-pragmatic diameter. Fourth movement is internal rotation. It is the turning of the occiput gradually from the original position, which is occipito-transverse, toward symphysis pubis, so-called occipito-anterior. This is occur commonly, but less common. It may be turned toward the sacral promontory, so it will called occipito-posterior, which is a type of malposition. Internal rotation is essential for completion of the labor. It is always associated with descent of the head and not occur until the head is engaged. After internal rotation, extension will be occur. As the head reach the vulva, it will undergo extension. Extension bring the base of occiput in direct contact with inferior margin of symphysis pubis. As the vulvar outlet is directed upward forward, so extension should be occur before reaching vulval outlet. Two forces come into play. First, forces exerted from the uterus act on the occiput posterior. Second, forces exerted from the pelvic floor resistance and symphysis pubis act anterior. So the head will be delivered through vulvar outlet by first occiput, followed by the phrygma, forehead, nose, mouth, and finally the chin. After delivery, the head drops downward in front of anal orifice, so the chin lies over anal orifice. After delivery of the head by extension, restitution will be occur. What is the meaning of restitution? It is the rotation of the head by further 1/8 of circle toward a transverse position. In order to allow rotation of shoulder from a transverse plane into anterior-posterior position. Last movement is external rotation of shoulder. It occurs together with restitution, and it means the rotation of shoulder from a transverse plane into anterior-posterior plane. As the shoulder is rotated to such a plane, the anterior shoulder can be delivered first by pulling the head downward, followed by delivery of posterior shoulder by pulling the head upward. After delivery of the shoulder, the whole body can be delivered easily by pulling down until the whole body is delivered. Thank you very much.